Vamos! Let's go, baby! I cannot believe that game went that way, boys. That was insane. There's a lot to talk about here, too. There's a lot to get into. We got to focus. I got to calm down a little bit. This is a dream. This is the greatest week this team has had in a very long time. It's like the reverse of mid-April last year with the PSG debacle and then Madrid. This was I don't guys, I am so astoundingly happy that it's going to be difficult to try and focus and go over this game in the way that it deserves because there is a lot to talk about. I want to try to cover the second half and the first half because there are a lot of different things to mention. There's some tactic stuff we're going to get into in a second too. So focusing up really on the first half quickly, I want to give us a general idea of how that went because we have to remember it wasn't perfect. And I think this is a good reminder about the Bayern match because, again, that match was far from perfect. Barcelona, the score sheet might look like we did incredible and they played very well, but it wasn't as much of a blowout the entire match as it felt like. This game is a similar story. I think the first half, this team really, really struggled. Now, I'm not sure if that's still the mentality thing getting to them. I think they worked through it a little bit and they figured it out. Obviously, I'm going to say a little bit why I think that was able to happen in a bit, but it was a struggling first half. I think the tactics didn't really match up that well for Barcelona. Madrid looked okay at managing the game, but again, Barca's high line was incredible. They managed it really well, and clearly, Vinny and Mbappe are just not great at exposing it. And I think it's interesting to compare it to Bayern because Bayern, believe it or not, was better at getting behind than Madrid were, even though it looked like Madrid were doing it a lot because Madrid, they were just rushing it. They were playing it more aggressively than they needed to. And Vinny and Mbappe, mostly Mbappe, was constantly offside. They matched up pretty well with the tactics that Hansi Flick knowingly was going to walk into that game with, which is the probably biggest issue with this side is that they are predictable in the way that they're going to play. That doesn't mean that any team can always go up and solve it, right, and play well against it. It just means that every single game that Hansi Flick goes into, you're going to know how he's going to play. And they responded incredibly well to that. Madrid did a solid job at defending it. They didn't do well at attacking it. And Barcelona did well enough defending it to get into halftime 0-0. I think there were a few key matchups that made it difficult for us in that first half. Balde and Bellingham. Balde didn't do a great job going forward. I think he was fine defensively, but he struggled a lot going forward in that first half. And it's important to remember that before we get into the second half. Same for Lewandowski. I really don't think he was good. I don't know if it was so much him being bad or Rudiger and Militao really having a really good game today, at least in the first half. But overall, I think that's really what I wanted to focus on. Koundé had a really, really good first half compared to the rest of the guys. And I think you could say the same for Kubarsi and Inigo, and Iñaki Peña was stellar today. Like, actually, if he plays like that every match, listen, I'm scared to hell whenever he comes out of the box, but it works. Today, he was phenomenal. It worked out. They almost caught him off the line like 6 times, but it didn't work. It didn't happen. So that's what matters. Okay, but that's pretty much it. We kind of know what happened in the second half. They dominated it. Here's a tactical look at why I think that was able to happen, and then we're going to get into the ratings. In the first half, what mainly was going on is that Rafinha, Yamal, and just pretend this is Fermin, were all making the runs for Lewandowski. And they were letting Lewandowski somewhat come up here with one of them coming, inside a little bit. But the fullbacks were able to stay pretty narrow because Balde wasn't very threatening. And then Koundé was stuck back here because of obviously having to deal with Vinny and Mbappe. Casado was coming up high too. So because there was no real deep midfielder at times, Koundé was a little bit more restricted. Now, coming into the second half, obviously they brought on Frankie de Jong for Fermin. Pedri was able to shift forward. But what I noticed the most is that instead of Lewandowski coming inside and being the outlet to link up with, right? Usually runs are made off of him, not usually Yamal. It's usually Fermin and Rafinha are making the runs in behind Lewandowski. Lewandowski's trying to link up with Lamine, sometimes pretend this is Pedri, or Pedri to flick on to someone, right? But in the second half, not only was Lewandowski staying back more, right, allowing Rafinha and Yamal not necessarily to make as many runs, still to make runs, right, in that very early phase. But the big key here is that him staying back kind of held Rudiger back here. It held one man back with him. And because it's Lewandowski and they're not necessarily as worried about the runs in, it gives Militao a reason to want to press up here on Pedri. And so with him pressing, that leaves space here that was originally picked out often when Lamine tried to pass it on to a runner before, because Rudiger and Militao were, for the most part, staying back, waiting to block out a pass from Lamine. But because Lewandowski was the one making the run now, Lamine was able to find a corridor, or there was a corridor open because Militao would press up with either Rafinha or Pedri or Lamine, whoever it was. And because Casado was also freed up because Frankie de Jong covered some of the defensive work, likely more so than Pedri, he was able to pick out that initial pass around these players to Lewandowski to really start off the changes in this game, really build that momentum. Incredible finish from Lewandowski here. He took a great touch into space, handled it well, and finished it incredibly well. Without that goal, this game could have gone very differently. I think this is a momentum-based team. They thrive when things are going well and when they have a good mentality. And that only comes or only came in this game after they scored. I think that's part of the reason they struggled so much, because they had trouble playing around Madrid. With those minor changes of Lewandowski staying back more, it really shifted everything. And then that actually ended up opening up space for the likes of Rafinha to make those runs. Incredible job today. So realistically, from that point on, I think it was just Barcelona's game to lose. They scored incredible goals after that. They finished very well, even though Lewandowski blew 2 chances that were seemingly easy for a guy of his caliber. He still had a great game, but they just dominated, in my opinion. And you know, even like the attacking momentum doesn't necessarily indicate that, but their finishing ability in at least these past 2-3 games has been remarkable. That's why they were able to score these goals despite only getting 2.4 XG, which is actually fantastic. But it's really impressive still to me that Rafinha is finishing the way he is, Lewandowski is finishing the way he is. Great goal for Lamine Yamal to get to on his right foot, I must mention. Great passes on from Frankie de Jong, Pedri, Casado today. But for the rankings, we're going to start with my boy Iñaki Peña. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10, man. I think I was a little shaky with him, and I think that's really the only reason I take away a point. I mean, realistically, he got a clean sheet. I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10, man. He got a clean sheet against Madrid, and were most of his saves offside? Yeah, so did they count? No, but for my heart, man, he deserved. Oh, okay. No, I'm going to give him a 9. I talked myself into a 9, or I thought myself into a 9 right there, because his passing in the first half was atrocious. Otherwise, though, this guy was fantastic. He made a couple of saves when he needed to. They were fantastic saves. Fantastic saves. I think most of them, Mbappe was offsides. Either way, he looked great. He looked great. Fantastic job from him. Koundé, I think he had a really, really good game, and he had so much to do, which is why I'm focusing more on, or I think he did so well, because he was constantly being dribbled at by Mbappe and by Vini the entire game. Him more than anyone else, and he did a very solid job against them. Put him out for corners a lot, handled it very well a lot. Yeah, I got a yellow card at the end there, a little unfortunately, I think. I think this ref had a shocker. I don't even want to get into it. I really think he was bad for the first half and then going into the second half. And then I think we got calls in our favor going into the later parts of the second half. The ref just had no idea what he was doing at all. He called 2 fouls against Barcelona when they went under a guy who was jumping up. And then Rafinha did the exact same thing. He jumped up on Lucas Vazquez, and then Rafinha got called for the foul for jumping up, even though that was the exact opposite the ref had called for the first 2 fouls. It doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe you guys understand it better. I think this ref did a terrible job for us for the most of this game, and then going into the second half, he did really poorly. Also, I really want to mention, sorry, we're distracting ourselves from this from our ratings here, because Iñaki Peña got a yellow card for asking for a yellow card for Vini again. Guess what Vini did in the first half that didn't get a yellow card called for? He did this. He walked up to the ref and did this, and they showed it on TV, and he didn't get a yellow card. He ended up getting a yellow card later in the match. He should have been off because he talked to the ref so much. But no, if you're wearing white, you can do it. I don't understand. I don't understand. And it's not like he's just talking to the ref who's next to him. He is going out of his way to bring his energy toward the ref, to walk toward the ref, run toward the ref, yell at the ref. This guy, I don't understand. I don't understand how he can get away with that. I know he has to deal with a lot. Everyone turns it into a racist nightmare toward him, and I'm sorry that he has to deal with that. he should also be susceptible to the same or have to follow the exact same rules that everybody else does. But it just, at least today, it didn't seem that way. Again, I think the ref called stuff against Madrid that were wrong too. I think he gave us some fouls at the end there that probably didn't help anything considering Madrid were already down, so they were going to be angry. The ref did a really poor job today. Moving forward, the rankings, right? Cubarsí and Inigo, I think they were fantastic. Not only were they there defensively, did they hold that line, did they do pretty much what they needed to do on recoveries when they did expose the high line, which I think happened like twice when it wasn't offside. Their ball playing ability was ridiculous, like actually ridiculous. Inigo ended up getting an assist for Rafinha's goal. Yeah, incredible pass for that one. Cubarsí and Martinez found players in the midfield when they were getting pressed pretty highly from Madrid in that first half. And in a way, I was dumbfounded that somehow the ball got from Cubarsí's boot to Casado's boot when there's someone right on him. They are special. 8.5 for them. I don't know what I gave Koundé. I'm going to give him an 8.5 as well. Yeah, maybe a 9 for Koundé. 8, whatever. I don't really care. Balde, I'm going to give him a 7. I would have given him a 5 because I think he was not good in the first half. I think he was fine defensively going forward. But that cross to Lewandowski, I thought he had blown it away. Frankie gave him an incredible chip on, incredible ball from Frankie de Jong, and Balde kind of just stopped with it at his feet. But the kid put in a stellar cross right to Lewandowski's head. Great finish by Lewandowski. Maybe a 7.5 for that too. Yeah, that was just a great ball from Balde, and he completely recovers from everything because goals are that important, obviously. And then the middle, man, Casado and Pedri were so important to this side. I'm surprised Casado stayed on the pitch going into the second half, but after seeing how it unfolded, I perfectly understand why. He has an ability with the long ball, I said over and over again, that I think only Dani Olmo has for this side. It's remarkable the ability he has to pick players out from a long distance away, and it's so special. He was pretty solid today defensively, very confident and solid on the ball for the most part, especially in the second half. Again, these guys were very careful in the first half, and, I would have detracted points from that if it mattered. It didn't. They walked out with a 4-0 victory, right? So realistically, it doesn't matter. I think both maybe 8.5s, maybe 9s for the two of them. They were very special. I really don't think they put a foot wrong at all. Yeah, they were really good. And then Fermin, right? He started, I had some shouts for him being the worst player in the first half, and I don't think he was good. I don't think he was fantastic. I also don't think he was that bad. You know what I mean? I think the team did struggle for possession a little bit, and maybe it was because of him. Maybe it was also just because Frankie is that good deep, and that frees up Casado a little bit, and that's important. Not his best performance, 6.5, fine. I don't think it was terrible. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's a pretty fair rating. For Lamine, though, man, I'm so glad he got his goal, man. I am so unbelievably happy that this kid scored. You don't understand. Great ball from Rafinha. Good run from Lamine. He had a couple times on the ball there where he was just class, man. I'm trying to see if he got an assist. He didn't get an assist today, but he was special, man. There were a couple of balls he gave into guys, and I think he linked up pretty well. There was also in the beginning a little bit of, not a lack of chemistry, but maybe a little bit of selfishness from a couple of the guys up front. And it just didn't click, right? They were working on some mentality issue, but it clicked eventually, especially after Lewandowski's first goal. Lamine, I'm going to give him an 8. I think it was a great finish on his right foot there. And I think he did struggle to get a little bit into the game. He was double, triple teamed at times. So I don't expect him to always play well in that situation. But he turned up for the team at the end of the match there, most of the second half, and was special. And obviously, the constant threat of having him on the outside or having his ability to dribble in keeps men away from other guys that can be dangerous instead. So yeah, great job from him. But Rafinha and Lewandowski were just different. Rafinha, it's the same exact thing I've been saying. I don't know. He's so good. He runs the entire match. He plays 8 different positions. He plays a pass most of the time when you need him to play a pass. He can run in behind just as good as anyone I've ever seen. Much better than Mbappe today, and was fire. In El Clasico, man, I couldn't have written a better script for this game. It was incredible. Lewandowski, oh my God, he was so good in this second half. So good, so confident. They gave him another shot of whatever steroids he's on, because I can't believe that he's 36 years old and doing this. Finished well his first two chances and then blew his second two chances out the window. He could have legitimately had 4 goals in the span of like 15 minutes. And I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense because they were so good. The chances were so good. And I think a lot of that had to do with the tactical changes where he is the furthest forward player instead of him constantly dropping back, which we've seen from him most of the season. I'm going to give him and Rafa both a 9. And I think I'd probably go with Leva as my man of the match because the game might have gone differently without that first goal. And then for the subs, too, I think Frankie de Jong was so important for this team. And he did a decent job defensively. I don't think he was incredible. He did his job, though. I'm going to give him a 7.5 just because of also that pass on to Balde for that second goal, I believe, for his cross over to Lewandowski. That was just a quick little, I think, first-time chip. It was sick. Danny Olmo, too, was okay. Yeah, I didn't think he was great, but I think when Danny came on, there was definitely a bit of let's just kind of work this game out. We're going to slow it down. We're going to hold possession because he wasn't really running and not necessarily forcing a pass, but risking a major cross in or pass in a way that I think this team normally takes those risks and those chances. Is that a problem? No, it worked out, right? It was okay. I think he still had a fine game. I'm going to give him a 7 because I think that was more of his responsibilities tactically under Flick right now than him being nervous or him being slow or something. Also, besides the point here, before we get into my boy Gavi, no injuries. There looked like there were some issues. I'm pretty sure there's nothing going on. Vamos. Let's go, baby. And then Gavi came in, got his yellow card, yelled at Vinny. It's like, this kid is, man, like, I'm with you there. If you need backup, I'm coming in. I don't know if I'm going to help that much, but I'm there for you, Gavi. You're the man. Yeah, I don't think that game could have gone better. I think the ref was a disaster, and obviously I would prefer it if we had a good ref. I don't care if that means we get more fouls called against us or they get more, like, just be fair. Call the same thing consistently, which he didn't do. And I don't think it was like bias. Like, I'm not going to go ahead and complain like whatever. And Negreira or, Madrid is Madrid and they have some power or whatever, Madrid TV. No, I just think it's a high pressure game and you make poor decisions, or most human beings make bad decisions under pressure. This guy did today. What was his name? I don't know. I don't really care. Yeah, he sucked. And I'm sorry if Madrid fans think that's the reason they lost, because it's not. It's Rafinha and Lewandowski's finishing ability that ended that, and the rest of this team's ability to just work together, play together, be a team. Hansi Flick's incredible, gutsy way of football worked out incredibly. The high line was, Mbappe was clueless, constantly offside. Nothing changed in the second half from Mbappe either, which is surprising to me considering he is a very experienced 5-year-old. He should know better than that. And I think Vinny was probably better than Mbappe, but I still don't think he was on his game today. They missed like 4 chances in the first half that I think ended up being offside anyway. But we were on today and they weren't. Let's go. Visca Barça. Later, guys. I'm going to stop rambling. Have a good Saturday night. Don't be safe. And yeah, later, boys. Let's go.